Hey guys, it's Miss Russell. I am helping you today with 8th grade AMI Day 28. So the first thing that I need you to remember is that for today's lesson, you're going to need your graph and information from yesterday. So make sure you're looking at that when you're trying to answer these questions. So the first thing I want us to do, let's look at what's brand new for today. So let's look at the questions. It says, question number 1, compare your sunspot graph with the magnetic storms graph. So the sunspot graph is the graph that you made yesterday, and the magnetic storms graph is the graph that's new today. So this question is asking you to compare those two. And then when you compare those two, it says, what relationship can you infer between periods of high sunspot activity and magnetic storms? So remember we talked about inferring. Inferring means that you use past information or experiences. So things that have already happened or that you've already learned, you're going to learn use what you learned from the past and apply it to what the new information is that you have. So your past experience is your sunspot graph from yesterday, and your new information is a magnetic storms day graph from today. So it says, what relationship can you infer between periods of high sunspot activity and magnetic storms? And you're going to respond using CER. If you have the paper version, it says CERJ, and J stands for justification. But I didn't think this was a good time to throw in something new that we haven't really talked about. And usually in our class, we mix reasoning and justification all in the same spot. So justification means that you're going to use the data that you have and kind of mix that in and use that to explain why you think something's happened. Well, we do that already in reasoning, so I took the J out. But if it helps you to figure out how to answer the question better, then leave it in. So remember, claim says you're answering the main question. And the main question is what we've already just read. What relationship can you infer between periods of high sunspot activity and magnetic storms? And here's a sentence frame. One can see, you can see, I can see. One can see that the periods of high sunspot activity and magnetic storms are related by. So remember, you're comparing these two. So tell me why you think they're related. E stands for evidence, and remember that's where you're going to use data to support your claim or your answer to what the main question is. Remember, there are two types of data. Qualitative data is using adjectives or describing words, and the second kind is quantitative. Remember that N is in there. N stands for number. Make sure you go back and you tell me about the graphs. Use data from both graphs because remember you're comparing the two. And then R stands for reasoning. It's your own explanation as to the how or why the evidence supports your claim. So even though you've already talked about evidence under the E portion, it's still a good idea to mention it again in this portion. So when you're writing any of these out, pretend like whoever you're talking to, whoever's reading your answer, that they've never seen the graph, they can't see the graph, they can't see the chart. So you want to give them as much information as you can in your answer. Okay, and then make sure, I've even bolded it, make sure you include data to support your reasoning. And then you have a sentence frame that you can use if you want for evidence and reasoning. Okay, so now let's look at question number 2. Suppose you're an engineer working for an electric power company. Your community is experiencing occasional blackouts, and blackouts are when there's no electricity. Just like when we have a storm and the lights go off, the TV goes off. Oh my Lord, you're stranded. You've got nothing to do but talk to one another. Okay, so pretend like there's a blackout and write a short public service announcement explaining the relationship between sunspot number and electrical disturbances on Earth. So for this question, I want you to pretend like you are the writer for the person on the radio or the person on the TV giving a commercial, doing a commercial. You're going to write out what you want them to say. So talk about your graphs, show how one relates to the other or how they don't relate to the other. So let's go up and look at today's new graph. So on the x-axis, remember that's the one that goes left to right. That's where your independent variable is. That's the one I can change. So it's the year. So we can change what years we're looking at. That's why that's on the independent, that's the independent variable on the x-axis. Then on the y-axis, it's the days with the magnetic storms. And it goes from 0 all the way up to 60. And it looks like they're counting in increments of 10. And on the x-axis, they're counting from the year 1970 to the year 2000. So 1970, 75, 80. So on the x-axis, they're counting by years. So what I want you to do is get yesterday's graph, compare it to today's graph, and see what comparison you can draw. Or is there any similarities? When you were looking at the sunspots, do the increase in sunspots have anything to do with the magnetic storms? Do the magnetic storms have anything to do with sunspots? And then yesterday, I also put 2 links in on, it talked about northern lights. I put a link in that shows you what the northern lights or aurora borealis really look like. And I also put a short video in there about sunspots, so you may want to take a look at those. Remember, if you need anything, email us. We're always here to help. I hope you're doing really well, taking care of yourself, taking care of all the people around you. If you need anything, please, please let us know. Talk to you later. Bye.